Well, hello and welcome to the Daily Records podcast live stream for the week, 20 minutes or so of your time that we use to look back over the week's events. We seem to be without opening titles this week, and we're also without our political editor, Paul Hutchin, who's on reserve Daniel. But I'm here with you, Torcull Crichton, the Records Westminster editor. I'm joined by Chris McCall, deputy political editor in Glasgow, and Peter Davidson, who's also in Glasgow now. Drying up in the drought-stricken south, and you guys are on the sunny west coast, but it looks like Edinburgh is the place to have been for politics this week. The Edinburgh Festival used to be about comedy and drama, but it's been colonised by politics in the last, this time at least, with a whole string of frontline, first-rate politicians giving one-to-one interviews. Nicola Sturgeon was on the stage with Ian Dale this week, and she produced one or two headlines, actually, that were quite interesting, and one or two snidey comments about the Tory leadership contest as well. Chris, you listened in and watched. Give us a little rundown of a flavour of what the First Minister said.
So Nicola Sturgeon was the hottest ticket, you could argue, on the Edinburgh Fringe yesterday. As you said, she was speaking to Ian Dale of LBC Radio, and yes, for the benefit of news-hungry journalists like us, there were quite a few things of interest. One of which was she hinted, and I do stress hinted, rather than confirmed, that she may not be the SNP leader going into the next Holyrood election, but she's due to take place in 2026. Now, I should say from the off that her default position, that's a quote, her default position is she will be leading the party then into the next election. But she kind of suggested that maybe, you can't predict 4 years in the future. Maybe, a time will have come where she decides to step down after a long and successful career at the top of the SNP. Now, obviously, this isn't the first time that the SNP's leadership succession has been speculated on. But the First Minister's comments yesterday has kind of led to another sort of furore amongst followers of Scottish politics as to who exactly could step into Nicola Sturgeon's shoes whenever the time comes for her to step down. Now, that wasn't the only talking point, as you alluded to, Torcull. There was also a few digs at Liz Truss for good measure. Now, of course, Liz Truss has been getting a few digs of her own in against the SNP and Nicola Sturgeon in recent weeks. So it seemed all fair, all's fair in love and politics, as you could say. But yes, Liz Truss, apparently, she'd spoken to Nicola Sturgeon backstage at COP26, the big environmental conference held in Glasgow last year. And I'm sure people watching have already read the story, but Liz Truss had jokingly said to Nicola Sturgeon, "How do you go about getting yourself in Vogue magazine?" To which Nicola Sturgeon presumably deadpanned. Well, I'm imagining she would deadpan, "I've actually been in the magazine twice." And she didn't have to ask once. Vogue went to her. Apparently put Liz Truss's gas at a peep. So that got a few laughs amongst the crowd at the Edinburgh Fringe event yesterday, yeah, certainly.
Yeah, she's good for newslines, Nicola Sturgeon. I mean, that Vogue interview last year was quite interesting. That's where she hinted she might, in her personal life, be up for adoption at a later stage. That's obviously looking at life beyond politics, and perhaps we'll look at the SNP beyond Sturgeon towards the end of this broadcast. But yeah, she had to go at Liz Truss as well, didn't she, Peter? And of course, Nicola Sturgeon's got form in this. We all remember Clypegate, where Nicola Sturgeon apparently gave away the details of a private conversation she had with a then Labour leader, Kezia Dugdale, during a Scottish election debate. And she stuck the knife well and truly into Liz Truss yesterday, didn't she, Peter?
Yeah, well, it's on the back of kind of what happened last Monday in Exeter at the Tory hustings, where Liz Truss said that Sturgeon was an attention seeker that should be ignored. And yeah, we've discussed that before on the stream. And Nicola Sturgeon didn't reply. It was John Swinney came out kind of within about 10 minutes on the 9 BBC and kind of hit back, and then on the radio the next day, and took Sturgeon a while. And then she eventually kind of had a wee dig back on Friday when she posted a picture of a seal when she was on holiday, I think, in Argyll. And yeah, so that was the attention seeker. But yeah, this was a more I'd probably say planned. I mean, I know she really didn't know the questions coming from Ian Dale, but I think this was with Sturgeon. She kind of has these things kind of ready to go whenever asked, and yeah, it was. I think it was quite a good reply, if I'm honest.
Yeah, she's not called Nippy Sweetie for nothing, is Nicola Sturgeon. No. Who said August was a quiet time for politics? I mean, the Tory leadership debate's been rumbling on all week, and the biggest story of the week, the biggest story in all our lives actually, is going to be the cost of living crisis. There are predictions today that the bills could go up to £5,000 next year, £5,000 a year for households. That's up from the 4,200 they were estimated to be just a few days ago. There's been quite a lot moving on this. There's a big Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak have fallen out on the issue. She says it should be low tax. He says he will give targeted support to low-income households. Gordon Brown has come in with his big clunking fist, demanding immediate action, saying that crises don't go on holiday. That's kind of trying to throw some shade on Boris Johnson, who, of course, was on holiday in Slovenia last week. But, of course, it throws quite a lot of shade on Keir Starmer as well, who's done very little on this issue, although we'll promise that Labour will come forward with their plans over the weekend and into Monday. Peter, first of all, where are we with this crisis? There's been a crisis meeting today in Downing Street with the energy companies. Are we expecting anything to really come out of that?
I mean, it was interesting to hear that Boris Johnson's kind of sat on them. That came out to before we came on here. So I think a lot of people have been saying, where is he? Why is he absent? The Kwasi Kwarteng, the business secretary, and Nadeem Zahawi are in that meeting. But yeah, I can't see much kind of anything being really come out of that in terms of helping people. That's what we all want to know. Where's the help for people? And I can't see these meetings really coming to anything. There might be some little things that can help, but we know that we're going to have to wait until September, until the end of this Tory leadership race finishes and we have a new leader. But yeah, I mean, it's the fact that it's kind of let's show like we're doing something by meeting them and calling them into Downing Street and kind of reading them a riot act and all that kind of thing. But it's nothing's going to happen. We are going to have to wait September, and some people just can't wait for that. People that are on the lowest incomes just can't wait. And then we've got, by the time the policies come in September, it's going to be further down the line, and then that's going to be
I think
over time.
Yeah. Yeah, and the price cap, of course, will be announced before that leadership. The result of that leadership race comes through. The price cap is expected on August the 26th, and Gordon Brown's warning today, of course.
I think we may have lost Torcull. Okay, well, I'll pick up where Torcull left off. I think Torcull was about to say, or about to explain further, a little bit more about what Gordon Brown had said today. Now, usually Gordon Brown, I say usually, I'm not privy to discussions between Gordon Brown and the Labour leadership, but it's fair to say that often Gordon Brown's interventions have been cleared with Keir Starmer's office before they go out. But it kind of seems today that maybe Gordon Brown has caught the UK Labour leadership on the hop a little bit with his plans. So what Gordon Brown basically came out and said was we need to revoke the energy price cap and also consider nationalising energy funds. Now, nationalising energy funds has been a proposal that's been on the table for a long time, pretty much since they were privatised by Margaret Thatcher's Tory government in the 1980s. And while some nationalisations, such as, let's bring the railways back into public ownership, they've kind of come back into political favour a little bit. The energy market is such a big beast that I think all political parties have been a bit wary of going near such an idea until now. I mean, there are some MPs in Labour who would gladly nationalise the entire UK energy industry tomorrow if they could. However, Keir Starmer and Labour, they've been pretty clear so far up to now that to do so would be, number one, incredibly expensive at a time when the UK Treasury coffers are looking pretty empty right now, and also it would be very, very complex. And thirdly, to nationalise the UK energy market would take a pretty long time, and the blunt reality is people are struggling now. And we are only months away from winter coming. We're in Glasgow today with its glorious sunshine and unheard of 27 degrees, but it's not going to be like that for much longer. So we need to see, an impact. We need to see change now, and nationalising the energy markets. I'm not sure that's going to deliver the kind of short-term change that people are looking for. Longer term, it's certainly an idea that I think will continue to be debated, but it's not going to be the short-term fix that many people require. Obviously, Martin Lewis, perhaps, Peter, the sort of best-known champion of the consumer in the UK at the minute, he's been quite vocal this week, hasn't he, about what should be done. Could you maybe give us a recap of what he's been saying?
Yeah, well, Martin Lewis was a lot of people see him as kind of people are saying he's the leader of the opposition. People are asking where on earth Keir Starmer is at the moment. But no, he kind of called on the government really to do more. He was on the airwaves yesterday. He kind of attacked Liz Truss, who is the favourite to take over from Boris Johnson, saying that the tax cuts that she is proposing won't help people at all. Also, the Green Levy, I think he called it a sticking plaster, which I think it's going to be about £150 that will help people. He said that millions will be endangered over the winter. So yeah, it was another bleak kind of warning from Martin Lewis, who has I think he put some kind of things on the table, and I know that the Tories have met him before, but I think maybe another meeting might be should be in the pipeline, definitely, because he has some good ideas to really help people, and I think a lot of people, I take his website must be kind of inundated with people kind of asking him questions, but also just kind of getting some advice from him. He is kind of really
none of this. None of this appears to be having any effect on either Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak, though, does it? The Martin Lewis's warnings, Gordon Brown's dire warnings, the Lib Dems earlier this week called for the windfall tax to be quadrupled. But of course, the three people now, because the Prime Minister has joined this energy crisis meeting, and the fact that it's considered news that the Prime Minister has joined the meeting says how much of a crisis the Conservative government think it really is. But now the Kwasi Kwarteng who's in there, or Nadeem Zahawi, or Johnson, are fans of the windfall tax, which seems to be the immediate big lever you could pull on company profits, on North Sea profits. Of course, that means, as I said, it means a tax on North Sea oil profits and possibly North Sea oil jobs as well, which leaves some in Scottish politics reluctant to look at it, Chris. But I think it looks like the quick answer, doesn't it, for whoever comes out of that Tory leadership election on the 5th of September.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, it's the obvious lever to pull, and as Peter's alluded to, people can't wait much longer. the Tory party hustings, they have managed to talk about pretty much everything apart from the real issues facing people day to day right now. I mean, we've had all kinds of talking shops, culture war topics that, can rile the Tory party base, but in reality aren't going to change the bills that land on your doormat every quarter or every few weeks or however you pay them. So the awkward questions, the difficult questions, they're going to have to be answered pretty damn quickly come September the 5th, when the new Tory party leader is announced, and we all expect that to be Liz Truss, judging by the polls of Tory party members recently. And of course, they are coming to Scotland next week. They will be in Perth, venue TBC, on Tuesday, where Scottish party members will have the chance to quiz Liz, you could say, and also throw questions at Rishi Sunak as well. And I think it's fair to say that the cost of living will be talked about, but also the big constitutional question, I'm sure, will be rearing its head as well, which will provide, hopefully, lots of headlines for us journalists, but also maybe an insight into how Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak, if they become Prime Minister, how they plan to deal with the Scottish Government and Nicola Sturgeon's request to hold a second referendum in October next year. We've had a lot of sound bites being thrown from Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak at the Scottish Government so far, but not really that much substantive about what they would do, when they're in power, because they will have to work with the Scottish Government, of course, whether they like it or not.
Of course they will. And Perth next week will finally give this Tory leadership contest, which Scotland's been a bit of a bystander in so far. It'll give it that constitutional, that Scottish focus. It won't be. Perth City Hall used to be a very famous venue for the Scottish Conservatives way back when I was a lad. I remember standing outside it, seeing Margaret Thatcher appear on the steps to cheers and jeers, it has to be said, and seeing her for the first time in the flesh and seeing, oh gosh, she's quite small. Leaders are always kind of smaller or taller than you think they will be. She wasn't in Cruise category, but she wasn't as much of an Iron Lady as I thought she was going to be. I remember that. And Peter, of course, the constitutional battle won't be raging in Perth. It will be warming up in the Supreme Court here in London, where the Scottish Government has put in a submission for the judges to decide on the legality or otherwise of holding a referendum without permission for the Westminster Government. And we saw the Westminster Government's response to that this week, their formal response. Run us quickly through or up some quickly for us, what the UK government think of the Scottish Government's application.
Yeah, so the government kind of submitted their whole kind of response to it yesterday, it came out yesterday, and it was kind of, why are you doing this? That was the kind of, to put it bluntly, why are you doing this? There's it's kind of, it's not the right time to be doing it. I mean, that's the kind of political arguments, but that this was a legal one. But yeah, I think that what we're going to see over the next kind of up until October the 11th and 12th is when it's going to be heard in the Supreme Court. I'm sure we're going to get another briefing from Nicola Sturgeon or SNP. We've had Patrick Grady up doing it as well. So more kind of arguments towards that, and it's going to, once Parliament comes back, it'll start to heat up again, and we'll get more on what the plans are from the yes side.
We lost Torcull for a second time. Just to round off, Peter, just quickly, as we are pushed for time, of course. Just to go back to Nicola Sturgeon appearance with Ian Dale at the Edinburgh Festival yesterday, and her hinting, I do stress hint, that she may not be about to lead the party in 2026. She might be doing other things by then. So let's just band around a few names. Who do you think, if and when Nicola Sturgeon decides she's going to move on, who do you think could be in the running to succeed her for the top job?
Yeah, well, I mean, they're the kind of the usual kind of names. You have Kate Forbes, kind of it's often thought about, and I'm sure Hamza Yusuf is discussed as well. The fact that he's held so many posts within government. The one that always pops up to me is Angus Robertson. He's a bit different to kind of the. Kate Forbes is kind of in the same mold as Nicola Sturgeon, kind of sensible head, and I think Angus Robertson, he's just a bit different. He's he's liked amongst the SNP, the party. He won the deputy leader in 2017, was it? No, 2013, sorry. And so yeah, he is liked amongst the membership. It's just, does the SNP want somebody that's a bit different and kind of can. Also, the fact is they need to try and appeal to a broader base in order to try and kind of either get a majority back in Holyrood or to eventually get what they're looking for. So yeah, I think he's also got quite more of a profile than maybe some of the other names that I'm sure you guys are thinking about. But yeah, that would be the one that I would kind of think about.
Torcull, I know that you've got a name that maybe people won't be that familiar with, that you think could be the next leader, certainly will be considered the next leader. So let's reveal who that is and why you think they are a rising star within the party.
Well, this is a game of spin the bottle, of course, dependent on what Nicola Sturgeon decides to do. But I think Peter almost hit on it there, when he described most of the likely successors as being in the mold of Nicola Sturgeon. And I think what the SNP really needs, if it's going to progress beyond 45, 48, 50% of support for independence, is somebody who breaks that mold, somebody who's different. And one of the rising stars, somebody who the SNP themselves have their eye on, is Mary McCall, SNP MSP from 2021, so she's not that long in Parliament. She's Environment and Land Reform Minister just now. She doesn't have a very big profile, but she made a big hit on the BBC's Question Time show when she was on there. She was quite good. She was very good, actually, quite good. She was excellent. And the SNP hierarchy themselves noted that. But my one tip for her would be, and for anyone else who hopes to succeed, would be to make themselves different from Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon, preceded by Alex Salmond, took the SNP to support, almost 50% support independence. Next person has to go further, and they have to do that by being inclusive, by reaching out, by bringing people across the line, and not by making their opponents enemies, but by trying to bring people in. But that's a debate which hopefully we'll live to see, and a fight we'll live to see later on. But I think we've reached our time limits and reached the limits of our speculation as well. So I'd just like to say thanks for tuning in. Do come and see us on the Record Politics website and in the Daily Record newspaper as well, every day, of course, in your newsstands. We'll be back next week with another one of these, hopefully, where the record temperature here in London won't stop my contribution. Anyway, for now, thanks for joining, and see you later.
Cheers.